Welcome to sportsbookreview.com. You are watching college football with Gary
and Chris.
Lots to discuss today. Today's show, of course, the ACC preview. Now, typically we would do this in divisions. There are no divisions right now. So let me just go on and preface that. No divisions. We have 15 teams, and they are all just a cluster thrown together. And it's going to be kind of crazy, but if you'll stay with us, you'll see exactly where we're going with this. We're going to have a good time. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up. Of course, hit the like button, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you are subscribed and that you share the show out. Head over to sbrpicks.com/CFB for more content from us. Let's go ahead and dive into this. The first team that we're going to discuss, we're doing this alphabetical order. Boston College. The Boston College Golden Eagles, or I guess it's just the Eagles. Jeff Hafley is in his first season as the head coach. Not good whenever you didn't get a spring practice, all that kind of stuff, so changes things a little bit. Offensive coordinator Frank Cignetti is in his first season, of course, and Tim Lukaba is the defensive coordinator. They went 6-7 last year, went 7-5 the year before that. Steve Addazio let go after not being able to jump over that 7-win mark. Not a good thing. They returned 67% of their production. That's number 8 in the ACC. 54% on offense and 81% on defense, which is a whole lot. But it's still only good for 5th in the ACC. It's number 16 in the country, but number 5 in the ACC. They are projected favorites in one game this year. At not having that non-conference slate hurts them a bunch. And they've got a talent advantage in 4 games. Projected wins are 3.43. Here are their key players. And it's never a good thing when one of your key players is a right tackle, but Ben Petrula is their number 1 player. Linebacker Max Richardson is the number 2 player. And then cornerback Brandon Sebastian. It's out with the old and in with the new on offense. Quarterback Anthony Brown, injured most of last year, is gone to Oregon. He has transferred. He's being replaced by quarterback David Grossel for 7 games last year. And then Notre Dame transfer Phil Jurkovich will compete for the starting job. He was announced as immediately eligible, so that's a good thing, of course. Running back A.J. Dillon. He was the life of the offense last season. He is gone, but the other half of the Buffalo Bros, David Bailey, who had 5.7 yards per carry last year, that's just astronomical. He's a candidate to be a breakout starter this year. They've got 6 starters back, but only 54% returning production on offense, and a scheme shift is going to take some getting used to under new offensive coordinator Frank Cignetti, especially with no spring ball. Finished number 8 in FBS in rushing yards per game and only number 113 in passing yards per game. I would imagine new coach Jeff Hafley would like to see that more balanced. This looks like a major rebuilding job on the offense. Linebacker Max Richardson on the other side stayed for his 5th year. He's going to lead the defense as likely the most talented player on that side of the ball. The defense is experienced. Hafley was Ohio State's defensive coordinator. He is going to run something a little different than the previous coaching staff. It could take time to gel, even with 81% returning production. I think we are going to consider this a year 0 for Hafley in that bunch. Without spring ball to get everybody acclimated to what's going on, this could be a down year, especially having to catch Virginia Tech, Louisville, Notre Dame, Clemson, and North Carolina on the schedule. 100%. I mean, that's a brutal schedule that the ACC gave them. It's going to be tough. I've got them at 2-8. They don't have a non-conference opponent right now, as Ohio was part of the MAC, canceled their season. So they've only got a conference slate. I've got them 2-8 right now.
Got them 1-9. And like I said, I'm only doing conference records. I don't really care about the non-con because I wonder, are we actually going to get these non-con games in?
I mean, we'll see, because
I know a lot of them in the ACC are scheduled early, but I feel like if they don't feel like they're ready, it's easy to say we're not playing that game yet.
Yeah.
We'll start next week.
The non-conference games are easy to cancel.
That's right.
Yeah, you can always get rid of those. Obviously we'll see the next team up obviously starts with a conference opponent. So let's go ahead and dive into that. That would be the Clemson Tigers. I mean, what else can you say? It's Dabo Swinney's 13th season. He's won 2 national championships. Tony Elliott is now the solo offensive coordinator after Jeff Scott left to be South Florida's new head coach. Defensive coordinator Brent Venables is in his 9th season, and I don't think I'm crazy for saying that he's the best defensive coordinator in the country. It doesn't matter what he's got.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely – it was him and Aranda, in my opinion, 1 and 1A for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Aranda's now a head coach. It ain't close.
No, it's really not.
It's just not.
It doesn't matter what he has talent-wise on that side of the ball, whether it's
now he's got a lot of talent.
Oh, yeah. But whatever his strength is, he plays to it.
It doesn't matter. He, A, has been a big part of building that talent, okay? And B, when they've had injuries, when they've had guys go missing, man, he just plugs somebody else in, and that somebody else is a horse.
Most teams, if you lose somebody like they lost Isaiah Simmons last year, I would be worried. And I'm not. I'm just not, because they've got a talent advantage in all 10 games this year.
That's right.
They don't have a non-conference opponent yet, but they're projected favorites in all 10 games. Their projected win total is 9.26. That is the highest in the country by a mile.
I don't know that they're going to play a game where it's going to be close.
That's what, like the Notre Dame game, maybe.
They get Notre Dame. That's the only game that they should. I mean,
they close the season at Virginia Tech.
If you want to disrespect everybody, the truth is they shouldn't even have to worry about anybody on this schedule outside of Notre Dame.
I mean, they really shouldn't. They were number 5 in offensive SP plus last year, number 4 in defensive SP plus. Returning production.
That speaks to the negativity and the downside of the ACC lately.
Yeah.
The turmoil in the other teams that are supposed to be your big boy teams, but it also speaks to the elite level of play from Clemson.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, key players, quarterback Trevor Lawrence, running back Travis Etienne, cornerback Darian Kendrick, and I could name 7 other guys.
I was about to say, no, we could, if we were doing key players for them, that's pretty damn hard.
It's basically everybody. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
There's a lot. I mean, it's almost easier to go down and say, this guy doesn't have a lot of playing time, and so he's not a key player yet.
Yeah.
But give him 2 years, and he'll be on this list.
Or even just a season.
Well, this season. That's right. Is there another team in any conference that has a separation gap between them the way Clemson does?
No.
Because the Big Ten, while Ohio State runs away with it, there are big boys in that conference that can bow up and at least play it tight.
The fact that Notre Dame is in this conference, like that helps things out now.
Oh, well, this year.
But even still, it's still, there's a pretty wide gap between Clemson and Notre Dame.
But that gap is the same as like Ohio State and Wisconsin, right? Or Penn State, maybe?
No, I think the gap between Penn State and Ohio State is closer than it is between Notre Dame and Clemson.
Do you really?
I really do. Now, that's not to say that Notre Dame can't win that game. I think it's okay. I think there's chasms.
I might be giving Notre Dame a little more credit, and Penn State maybe not as much credit.
I will say this: Penn State is more talented than Notre Dame is.
Well, this year's roster would have been, but
yes,
but not last year. You can't. I wouldn't have said that. The year before that, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah. I mean,
we're projecting what they would have been this year had they played football.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point.
Sorry.
No.
Clemson's good. I'm taking the conversation off of Clemson because there's nothing you can say outside of they're the elite of the elite in this conference, and they're in that top 3, top 5 in the country every year.
Here's the only question about them, right? So, like Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Amari Rodgers, they're going to be the 3 best players on the field at any time that they are on the field. Anytime that offense is on the field, they're going to be better than every defense that they go up against. Just
100%.
Bottom line. The only thing that we got to see about is how much of Clemson's offense was new South Florida coach Jeff Scott. It was him and Tony Elliott for years, and now it's just Tony Elliott. So what does that change? The offense ranked top 6 in every major statistical category last year. They should continue to do the same. We'll see whether or not the offense changes at all after Jeff Scott leaves, right? The defense only returns 51% of last year's production, but they just reload every single year. There's always a good mix of talent and experience, and they play the guys that are the most fundamentally sound, regardless of who's the most talented. Clemson is best in the country at doing that. They get the best players, but they make sure that the guys that are the most fundamentally sound are the ones that play. They don't beat themselves. I mean, they just don't. The only thing that this defense could have been better at last year was points per trip inside the 40. They were only number 36 in the country. They were top 7 in everything else. Everything else. I would expect more of the same from Venables. I mean, we talked about him already, but this is far and away the most talented team in the ACC, and it's not even close. The season's going to be no different. Their only real challenge on the schedule is Notre Dame on November 7th. But if things get hairy there, if the offense doesn't quite gel under Tony Elliott, look, the final 3 games that they got, at Florida State, Pitt, and at Virginia Tech, it could be a little tricky, but I don't expect it to be.
I love Norvell. We'll get there. This ain't our grandfather's Florida State. This ain't our daddy's Florida State.
No, you're correct on that. You are so correct on that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. So, with that said, we're going to move into the Duke Blue Devils. The Duke Blue Devils. Look, I love David Cutcliffe, but last year was a bad year. What are you going to do? They went 5-7 last year after going 8-5 the year before that. Zach Roper, this is his 5th season as offensive coordinator. Ben Albert and Matt Guerrieri, this is their 3rd year in defense or on defense after Jim Knowles left to go and be Oklahoma State's defensive coordinator. Look, number 112 in offensive SP plus last year. That just ain't gonna cut it. But they were number 36 in defensive SP plus, so that's obviously a positive thing to work on. At special teams, they're always really good. Number 23 in SP plus last year, returning 65% of their production overall, 56% on offense, which is not good, but 73% on defense is pretty good. The offense, again, sometimes maybe it's good to get rid of some of the players that aren't that great, right? So last season, David Cutcliffe completely reshaped his entire offense around quarterback Quentin Harris. He was less than stellar throwing the football. We'll say that. 58.5% completion percentage, it really ain't going to cut it in this conference, even as bad as the conference is. They ran the ball a lot more than he is used to. They ran the ball 56.7% of the time to only 43% passing, when typically they are about 50-50. So when you start running the football that much more, there's less explosive plays. There's less, it's just everything's bad. Everything's bad. Expect things to get back to normal this year. Clemson transfer quarterback Chase Bryce takes over the reins. Running back Deion Jackson, he's going to see plenty of action behind 4 returning starters on the offensive line. Last year's number 125 yards per play and number 118 success rate, I think both will improve greatly. But man, they were just bad.
The wins though. I think those numbers will improve. I don't know if the record improves.
They are projected favorites in 5 games. They have a talent advantage in 6 games this year.
Yeah.
At Duke, that is monumental. Just unbelievable. However, projected wins is only 4.86. So, there's a bunch of toss-ups in there and all that kind of stuff. So, they were number 120 in adjusted turnover margin last year. Best player on that side of the ball is tight end Noah Gray. So, you're not going to hear his name a lot, but he will be the best NFL player on offense for them, bottom line. 6 starters return on defense. They got 73% production, led by defensive ends Rumpf and Dimukije. I probably said that wrong, but either way, the defense kept this team from completely imploding last year. They had the number 25 success rate in the country, and they were number 42 in yards per play, which is not bad. A little help from the offense, this unit can actually be a lot better. Blue Devils do dodge Miami and Clemson, but they get North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Florida State, and an opening bout against Notre Dame. It's not exactly ideal, but even still, the team should be improved, even if the record does not indicate it. I've got Duke at 5-5 this year. I think that they get, maybe I'm missing one. I think it's 5-6. Yes, 5-6. Excuse me, because they've got the win over Charlotte. I don't think they're going to be great, but I do trust David Cutcliffe's coaching. And I think getting back to what they are comfortable with on offense is going to lead to better things. Where have you got them?
I've got them at a 4-win team.
You're 1 win off from mine.
Yeah, we're close. We're close. I think it's going to be another disappointing year for David Cutcliffe.
I will say this: if he doesn't get it done this year, not that they are ever going. Because I think he's lifetime contract kind of guy, right?
Well, he can be there as long as he wants.
Yes.
At what point does he want to be there? A weird, strange phenomenon would keep him there maybe 2 more years is, can he land Coop Manning? Which I think they got a snowball's chance in hell of landing.
It's Arch Manning.
Yeah. Arch Manning, that's it.
And that's diving into the future, obviously. But
he's, because he coached both the Manning brothers, everyone assumes they're going to be a player in that. I don't think there's any way on earth. He was actually at a legitimate football school both times he coached those Mannings. Yeah. I don't see Arch going to
Duke.
Duke. I just don't see that happening no matter who's the coach.
I agree with you.
That kid's going to compete for Heisman trophies. He's going to want to compete for national championships. You're not doing that at Duke.
No, you're just not. It's the truth.
But that's the only reason, if I'm Cutcliffe, I think if the family has told me, hey, man, we have a relationship and we trust you, you're definitely in the running. Maybe I stick it out.
Stick around
maybe I
for a
stick
few years.
around.
Otherwise, maybe it's almost time to hang it up. Maybe.
That's right.
I mean, we'll
spend a lot of falls fishing.
Yeah, I could see that, and especially after a pandemic and all that kind of. I mean, who knows?
Dealing with the things that they've had to deal with, he's been doing this for a long time, man.
Oh, he certainly.
But he's very good at it.
Has. Oh, he certainly is that. Let's move on. Florida State Seminoles. Mike Norvell's first year at the helm in Tallahassee. He brings in offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham and defensive coordinator Adam Fuller. 6-7 last year, not good. Went 5-7 the year before that. They at least got to a bowl game last year. I mean, I don't know. There's not much to go on here. Willie Taggart kind of ran that into the ground, and it was just an extension of what Jimbo Fisher did in his last season there, last 2 seasons. 73% returning production typically would be good, but again, only number 6 in the ACC, even though it's 27th nationally. You got 83% back on defense, and the defense is supremely talented.
Well, all these guys are talented. That's the one thing that
Yeah.
hurt those 2 years with Willie was this team has talent.
Yeah.
These guys, you can't be a major college football team in the state of Florida and not have talent. You're going to have talent. I would venture to say they've got, top 3 or 4 talent in this conference.
Oh, certainly. I mean, they've got a talent advantage in every game that they play aside from Clemson.
But they don't play Notre Dame, though.
No, they do play Notre Dame.
They've got a talent advantage over Notre Dame.
Oh, 100%.
Now, that does shock me because Brian Kelly's been building that thing for a while. Okay, that was the team that I was worried about. I was like, Clemson, now you throw Notre Dame
there are
in.
certain position groups that are stronger at Notre Dame than others, but
overall,
they're very close. But according to the numbers at CFB Winning Edge,
but record, they're not.
But
they're absolutely not.
No, not even close. They're projected favorites in 8 games this year, but their projected win total
they
is
ain't winning 8 games.
Well, 6.43 is what they've
They ain't
got.
winning
So
8 games.
here's the key players. Defensive tackle Marvin Wilson. He is going to be a top early NFL draft pick. Safety Hamza Nazaruddin. Don't know if I said that right, but either way. And then wide receiver Tamorian Terry. On offense, quarterback James Blackman led an offense that was number 91 in success rate and only number 61 in yards per play, both of which are going to need to improve, and I would expect them to.
Mike Norvell's a hell of an offensive mind, and he is he seems to be a quarterback whisperer.
Oh, he's a play caller.
We saw what he did in Memphis, not just, the offense overall, but getting inside the psyche of pretty unstable quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And getting just outside of expectation results.
Agreed. I will say this. Those numbers need to improve, and they got to do it without a running back like Cam Akers. The running back the running back core is thin. I mean, it is super thin this year.
We'll disagree there because I don't care about the talent of the running back. Mike Norvell has put
he finds
4 or
playmakers.
5 running backs. I think his system opens it up for running backs. I think he wants to bring in his own running backs at Memphis. Man, we churned running backs out right and left over and over and over again. This system it looks like it's receiver and quarterback friendly. It is because it's a track race down the field. It opens everything up underneath for the running back. Somebody's going to come out of this backfield looking like a star, and they are going to make NFL rosters because of what Norvell's going to show that he can do.
Well, so here's the thing. Wide receiver Tamorian Terry is an absolute baller. Norvell finds a way to get playmakers in space, right?
Yep.
So it's whoever is the playmaker.
True, that's true. He doesn't really care what position you play.
And you may be a wide receiver,
but
you could end up looking like a running back. Because he's going to find a way to get you the ball in space so that you can move. Here's the deal.
And he's going to line you up all over the place.
It can take some time, though, to get that offense to gel correctly, and they didn't have a spring to really get this going, right? And then, obviously, you got some chemistry stuff going on between some of the players that don't know what's – so, either way, look, if Blackman is not successful early, though, look for him to swap off and go with quarterback Chubba Purdy, that's Brock Purdy's little brother, to run his offense. I mean, that kid's super talented. We'll see what happens. Blackman has had years to be able to take that thing over. If he doesn't do it early here, they open with Georgia Tech and then they go into a non-conference game, which theirs was canceled. But, they open Georgia Tech and then they go to Miami And then after that, they've got Notre Dame and then North Carolina. Like, that's a brutal stretch there. If things don't work out early, I could see a quarterback shift. Defense, however, returns 10 starters. They got 83% of their production back. New DC, Adam Fuller, had a top 25 defense at Marshall. He greatly improved Memphis's defense last year, and now he moves down to Tallahassee, where he has got elite talent at literally every level.
Yep.
Every level, including upperclassmen at every position. So that's a good thing. He's going to move FSU back to a four-man front. Last year, Willie Taggart had gotten the defensive coordinator to move to a 3-4 defense, and they've got linemen for days. There's no reason to not have a four-man front here. Right. It should pay dividends for them. Obviously, new coaching staff coming in. Overall, there's got to be trust built in that locker room. They have had some not great headlines that have come out. We'll see. You know,
what you got?
We'll see what happens. I've seen Norvell work magic at Memphis. I think it's going to take time. I will say this. It would not shock me to see them pull some upsets and also lose like some questionable games that they shouldn't lose. I've got them 6-4 this year. Obviously, they don't have a non-conference scheduled yet. I think they'll win whatever non-conference. But I think 6-4 is pretty good. I've got, lost to Clemson, lost to Notre Dame, lost to Miami. I got them losing to Louisville. I think they'll beat North Carolina. So, I think 6-4 is reasonable, and I think that's a step in the right direction. Any other year, this would have been like an 8-4.
I think it's going to be rough. I got them flipping that.
You got 4-6. Yeah. Ooh, okay.
I think it's going to be rough.
I think obviously I put a lot.
I think there's going to be learning curves.
Oh, there's absolutely.
I like Norvell. There's also a part of me that I've seen too many coaching staffs come from G5.
Yeah.
Head coaches get jobs, and I like when they build a staff. I don't like when they just take their staff from the G5 school to the Power 5 school. It ain't the same sport. And
Agreed.
Sometimes it has worked out. I feel like more times than not. The numbers might be wrong on that. But I just think just because that guy was a good DC, scheming up against Cincinnati. But the problem is the offenses that they played for the most part in the American, head and shoulders better than the ACC.
Yeah.
So
I think it
might work out just fine, just some growing pains. I think a lot of these older players that are upperclassmen, they've been through a coaching churn so much. How much have they bought in? How much do they really care? You're going to have to win those kids over because they went through Jimbo, who recruited them. Then they were sold a bill of goods in Willie Taggart, and now you're a new guy trying to sell them your bill of goods. And I just wonder how much of it is just, man, let me get the scholarship, let me get to school. If I can play on Sundays, let me do what I can. But
I'm not super biased, especially in the middle of the pandemic.
Trying to get me to buy into yes,
it's tough.
Not meeting. It's really hard for new coaches.
Speaking of really hard, we can go ahead and move into the next one here. Georgia Tech. Look, the Ramblin' Wreck, the Yellow Jackets. Jeff Collins in his second season here. Look, 3-9 last year was actually, better than a lot of people thought. Right.
That's right.
It did pretty well. They went 7-6 in 2018, but that was, running the triple option, what they were built for.
Well, you can't look at 2018
and 2019 as the same thing.
It's just different. It's a whole different team.
Yeah.
You're wearing the same uniforms. That's it.
Yeah. 84% production is returning. That's good. Number 2 in the country, number 1 in the ACC. Offense returns 74%, but here's the kicker. It's the defense. Returns 94% of their production from last year. They went young. They figured, you know what? This is a complete start over. Let's knock it out.
Let's make some mistakes and let's let these guys get experience.
Projected favorites in 0 games.
Yep.
They've got a talent advantage in 1 game. They've got a projected win total of 2.23 because, hey, at some point, somebody got to win something somewhere.
That's right.
Key players, linebacker Bruce Jordan Swilling and defensive end Antonius Clayton. And then for number 3, I've just got blank because who knows at this point. Last year's transition from the triple option to more of a pro style was the exact disaster that you would expect it to be.
Yep.
Number 125 in success rate. Number 124 in total scoring, 16.7 points per game. Number 127 in total offense. They had 286 yards per game. That's bad.
It's bad.
For anybody that doesn't know.
Defensive numbers, bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, here, we'll get to defense in a second. Number 112 in points per trip inside the 40. Like, even when they got inside the 40, they couldn't do anything. It was awful. And to be fair, you would expect a slight improvement this year because they got 10 returning starters. But this is not going to be anything earth-shattering because they just don't have the guys.
These are still a lot of kids that were recruited to run the triple option.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all of your upperclassmen were that. All of your sophomores, all of your, whatever, that's what they were. So a second year in the system would have been even better had you not missed all of spring ball. Like, that's not good. And then even the guys that are coming in from high school didn't get the spring ball, didn't get the summer conditioning. It's going to change things a little bit. So, obviously that sucks, but it is what it is. 94% returning production on defense. That is definitely something to build on. The defense wasn't as bad as the offense, but the offense left them in too many bad situations to be successful. How much may depend on the offense again, like how much improvement we see this year. Because they just transitioned last year to a 4-2-5, which is a completely different scheme than what they were used to. And they were also, when they were running the triple option, not used to being on the field very much.
Yep, that's where I thought the defense, you could see they just were getting killed at the end of games.
Oh yeah.
Second half and the fourth quarter, the second quarter and the fourth quarter, they got nothing.
Well, not only that, but the offense, again, like I said, bad situations. They had the defense in the number 126 in the country, worst defensive field position.
Yeah.
I mean, that
makes sense.
Awful.
Yeah. That all lines up with all those numbers. Yeah. What do you think we're getting this year?
Well, I will say this. Last year was year zero, and I think this is just a continuation of year zero.
I think so, too.
I think Georgia Tech has bought in for the long haul here.
I do, too. And I think Collins is...
I think he's a good coach.
I think he's a good coach, and I think he's the right hire for that.
Yes, 100%. I mean, he's from the Atlanta area. He gets it. He knows. They've only got a talent advantage in one game. They're not going to be favored in any game. Their non-conference tilt, typically, anybody else would have scheduled like a nobody. They scheduled UCF. Like, if this team wins a single game, you can count me as surprised.
Yep.
I've got them going 0 for this year.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if they win a game, like obviously anybody can win a game any day, like whatever.
Right.
But just looking at the rosters, looking at things right now, I don't think that they will win any game right now. If they win a game or even 2 games, it won't shock me because I know that that's a really good coaching staff. I trust Collins to get this thing done. But I've got 0 for this year, and I think it's just a continuation.
So I've got them 2-8 in conference, simply because all the struggles that they are going to have with the pandemic hurting them and setting them back, it's going to do the same thing to these other coaches. Okay, that when the 2 wins I have are, and I could be completely wrong on this, was Pitt and BC, and I'm thinking BC, same problems. Non-consistent coaches. Now, the good thing for BC is they play them in the middle of the season, not early. But it's one of those deals where they're not going to have their stuff all together anyway. They're going to be in the same problems you're having of transitioning an offense, doing all of these things. They're kind of in a year zero, going through the pandemic. Can you get that win? And then I just figured, man, let's get them one other W. I like Jeff Collins. I think he's a good football coach. Who else might struggle in the pandemic? And so I just picked a game.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, obviously, you got Syracuse. You got, you got North Carolina State.
I don't think they beat Central Florida. I left out all of the non-cons. I'm just doing conference because I didn't know what the conference games were going to be really when we did this. That's a team that I think Central Florida is going to be favored. I think Central Florida is going to cover.
I think they are going to.
I don't know what the number will be, but I just
destroy
think
them. They will destroy.
Be a bad situation.
Let's go ahead and move on here. The Louisville Cardinals. Scott Satterfield moving into his second season. Dwayne Ledford in his second season, and then Brian Brown in his second season, along with Court Dennison as defensive coordinators. Look, 8-5 last year was pretty damn good.
Hell of a run.
Pretty damn good. 2-10 in 2018 last year under Bobby Petrino. They returned 78% of their production this year, 79% on offense, 77% on defense. They are projected favorites in 5 games. They've got a talent advantage in 6, and their projected wins are 5.81. Key players here, wide receiver Tutu Atwell, linebacker C.J. Avery, and then cornerback Chandler Jones. 79% returning production on offense is going to spell good things. They were number 12 in the country in yards per play on offense, number 18 in points per trip inside the 40. Quarterback Mikael Cunningham, 22 touchdown to 5 interception ratio last year, but the offense is predicated on running the football.
That's it.
Period.
That's Satterfield.
Oh, yeah. Running back Javion Hawkins went for 1,500-plus yards on the ground last year. Cunningham ran for almost 500 as the perfect dual threat for this system. The offensive line loses both tackles, which is not ideal, but the inside of the line all returns, and I wasn't a huge Mekhi Becton fan anyway, so I think that they might actually improve a little bit. If you look at his advanced stat numbers, he just, he's a massive human.
He's a gigantic person.
He allowed a lot of pressure on actual passing down. So Tutu Atwell, fantastic big play threat. I mean, he's unbelievable. He had 6 touchdowns of 50 yards or more last year. The defense, however, a lot to be desired there. Number 88 in success rate, number 111 in yards per play, number 108 points per drive inside the 40. They couldn't stop anybody. They gave up 33.4 points per game. It typically, if you win 8 games in a season, your point differential is going to be, where you average more points than the other team. That is not the case here.
Win close games, lose blowouts.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you got that right. So
math isn't your friend all the time.
7 starters return.
Yep.
They should be more comfortable with the scheme at this point. The biggest improvement needed is defensive line, which gave up 205.8 rushing yards per game. What Satterfield pulled off last year, in the middle of it, felt kind of miraculous, right?
I thought it was unbelievable. Go back to listen to our Big 12 preview.
Yeah.
I thought Kansas State had no talent whatsoever when they made their coaching change. I disrespected them going into last year. This was the other team where I love the coaching hire, but I didn't think there was any talent in that cupboard at all because of how bad they looked under Petrino. Wrong.
Oh, 100%.
Wrong. This team had plenty of dudes there, which made what Petrino did with them even that more damning.
Well, here's the thing. At the very end of, like in 2018, at the end of the Petrino regime, we knew that those players quit.
Yes.
Like we saw it.
But I'm fortunate enough to never be in a situation in life where I've just been so upset with the scenario, with the leadership, that I just quit on them. To where I left everybody else, my teammates, my coworkers, my everything, out to dry. I guess critiqued the players in a negative light for quitting. And I just thought Satterfield's going to have to get his dudes in here.
Yeah.
Because you can't win with these kids. You can't win with these guys. That was my thought last year. It broke off eight wins. I was shocked. Now I don't think they get to 8 this year. You got them. Yeah. You think they're gonna?
No. I don't have that.
Having all close. Conference games and not getting some easy wins.
Well, they get Western Kentucky to start things off. I've got them 7-4.
Okay, so we got the same record. I've got 6-4 conference.
Yeah, 6-4 in conference.
I think that's a good. I think that's good. Hey, that's one more conference win they had last year, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I think the schedule sets up well. They're extremely well coached. They get Virginia Tech, Florida State, and Miami all at home. They're dodging North Carolina and Clemson.
And
that helps.
And Notre Dame. No, they got Notre Dame.
Yeah, they get Notre Dame.
That's one of the losses.
So,
I was looking at
however, it's on the road. It's whatever. But
doesn't matter.
They get Virginia Tech, Florida State, and Miami all at home, which, again, not going to make a massive difference this year. But it's still better when you're playing a team that's more talented than you, to get them in your own ball yard where you don't have to travel, you feel the most comfortable, et cetera. There's something to that. So, with that said, let me dive into the next one. I've got a scroll for you here. There we go. The Miami Hurricanes. Manny Diaz's second season here. And look, Coral Gables has been nicer in recent years, but last year was not one of them. 6-7 last year, went 7-6 the year before that. And, Mark Richt kind of surprised everybody when he retired, and he retired because he didn't want to fire his offensive coaching staff. And Manny Diaz did it after the first year.
Yeah,
he took Dan Enos.
That coaching staff was his son.
Agreed, and I understand that.
I get it.
I totally get it.
That's why it's tough to hire family.
However, Dan Enos is not family, and Manny Diaz threw him out into the wood chipper. I mean, all right, 1 year, adios. You didn't fix this thing. We're going to go with somebody else. They hire Rhett Lashley. Obviously, the defense, I can tell you about the defensive coordinators. This is Manny Diaz's defense. It just is. Bottom line. So, typical circumstances, it would really hurt to lose your best lineman on offense and defense, right? However, I actually think they're going to be better this year than they were last year. Look, 55% returning production is not great. 59% on offense, 50% on defense. However, when you are replacing those players that you lose with equal or better talent, I think you're moving in the right direction, right? So quarterback Derek King is a key player. Tight end Brevin Jordan is a key player. Defensive end Quincy Roche, who's a transfer from Temple, who was an All-American last year. That is what I'm talking about. They got a talent advantage in 9 games. They're projected favorites in 9 games. However, their projected win total, 6.56%.
So Derek
a lot of
King,
toss-ups.
not working in the system.
Yeah.
Doesn't know this coaching staff. They don't know him. Doesn't know these receivers. He's a transfer as well. Hadn't had an offseason with these guys. I think Derek King might have really messed up his football resume by
You think so?
choosing to sit out in Houston last year, taking the redshirt year, then transferring. Now, you can't predict the pandemic. You don't know any of this stuff's happening when you're making these decisions. But I thought if he transferred anywhere, he was going to go to a place that was an offensive head coach, an offensive guru, a system that could exploit his talents, and he didn't.
You don't think that this system under Rhett Lashley?
Okay, it might. It could. It hadn't in Miami.
No, it hasn't. But here's the thing. Like, let's dive into this. So long as the offensive line holds up, and I understand they lose their guard, Navon Donaldson, who we talked about, before. The offense has got plenty of talented weapons. I mean, they can be scary, even though the numbers over the years have not shown it. New offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley comes in. They're going to get the ball in the air more often. Likely more success than they've had in South Beach in a long, long time. I think that this has a real good shot of being successful this year. Going over onto the defense, like you lose potential top 10 defensive draft pick, defensive tackle Gregory Rousseau. That's going to crush any defense. But like I said before, defensive end Quincy Roche from Temple. Zach McLeod returns, at linebacker. They got a ton of defensive talent, and they finished number 3 in success rate on defense last year, number 12 in yards per play. The offense just could not do anything last season. The defense was in it to win every single game that they played, and the offense could do nothing.
So here's my problem with Lashley, and this might be just an inappropriate criticism.
He has always been the offensive coordinator for guys that have their own system.
Yes. This is not – none of this is his brainchild.
Yeah.
Sonny Dykes is the brainchild of that. I don't want the guy that worked under Sonny Dykes. I want Sonny Dykes.
Gus Malzahn is the brainchild.
Yes. The guy that worked under the genius rarely becomes the genius that guy had. That guy is.
Agreed.
So, that's – I'll see it when I believe it. I believe it when I see it.
I understand it. I expect the defense this year to pick right back up. I think the offense.
I'm not worried about the defense. I don't think they play a lot of offensive juggernauts in the ACC. So they're I don't think that's going to hurt them too bad. It's putting points on the board. It's not turning the football over. It is playing fundamental football. This is a problem. These guys are undisciplined a lot.
Yeah,
they are usually high up in the ACC of turnovers, penalties, lots of things like that. Is that going to change?
I mean, we'll see.
What do you got them at?
See. I have got them. Let's see. I've got them at 9-2. No, I'm sorry. That's North Carolina. We'll get to that. Sorry, I've got them at 8-3.
Okay,
I've got them 8-3.
Me and you. All right, this is going to be my.
I'll go on and tell you this. Lots of preseason optimism. The schedule is not easy though, right? So you start out with UAB, and after that, then you run into Louisville, Florida State, and Clemson. 2 of them on the road. If you can grab 2 of those wins, it can be a massive season.
Yes,
if that's that will prolong the optimism. If they don't, however, then it can get a little crazy, and we'll see how we go from there. So
I think it can get off the rails early, and that's when I think you've got chaos in the locker room, and you've got chaos on the sidelines. I think this team could be a 3-17 team. Now, I absolutely think that's the floor.
Ooh.
I think that's the absolute floor. But would it surprise me if they hit that? No, not really.
I think it's tough to do that when you've got such a good defense.
I don't know,
and I think that
man.
they're just going to be better on offense.
I
I think
that's
De'Aaron
where
King changes everything.
I think De'Aaron King's an elite talent. He hadn't played football in a year and a half. It's been a long time since he's played meaningful games.
Well, I mean, he played 4 games last season, but I mean, you're right. It's been a while.
Those were a bunch of high school teams that he played.
That is true.
They're non-con
They lost to
schedule.
those.
Yeah, they're non, and he wasn't great in them.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was under a new system, and the argument was as well, and he's having to learn this new system in a pandemic. And what's his?
Okay.
I think chaos is not going to be their friend.
You might be right.
That's
you might be right.
That's my worry with this team. I'm not high on them. I'm not sold on them. I'm gonna stay pat.
That makes sense. Okay. So I've got 8-3.
If they get out the door and they beat UAB and they beat Pitt and they lose to Virginia, Florida State, and Louisville, I think the wheels can fall off. And they absolutely can lose to those teams. I think every one of those teams, I kind of like the head coach. I think they're going to be out-coached in all of those games.
You might be right about that. You might be right.
And outside of Virginia, I don't think anybody. I think they're going to have less talent than all those other teams. Not in Florida, not against Louisville, but I think the coaching difference at Louisville is
significantly better.
Is miles apart.
Okay. I'm with
My opinion.
Let's move on. North Carolina, the Tar Heels, Mac Brown's second year. Phil Longo is the offensive coordinator. Jay Bateman and Tommy Thigpen are sharing coordinator duties in the defense, but it's Bateman's defense.
Yes.
We'll say that. Went 7-6 last year, 2-9 the year before that. I mean, last year of Larry Fedora was not good whatsoever. So, look, 75% returning production this year. That's pretty good. Number 18 in the country, only number 4 in the ACC, but even still, 87% is back on offense. That's number 1 in the ACC. Defense is 64% returning production. Projected favorites in 8 games. Talent advantage in 8. However, their projected wins is only 6.43 because there's so many toss-ups here.
Yep.
Quarterback Sam Howell, key player, along with wide receiver Daz Newsome and linebacker Chaz Surratt. On the offense, Sam Howell has got all the buzz that you could possibly have after a stellar freshman campaign. Saw him throw a school record 38 touchdowns, finished second in the ACC behind Trevor Lawrence in passing yards and efficiency. Wide receiver Daz Newsome, running back Michael Carter provide a solid foundation for an offense that finished number 12 in yards per game last season. That was 474 yards per game. Pretty good.
I just did not see that last season.
Oh, me either. We were so wrong on this hire.
Yep.
I mean, we couldn't have been more wrong.
Now, I'm going to tell you this. Mac Brown better have another OC in his back pocket if their offense comes out the way this one did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Because Phil Longo, I mean, he was great.
He is not long for this job.
Well, he was at Ole Miss, and the offenses at Ole Miss were pretty good.
Yep.
Even with Matt Luke as the head coach, like, they were what kept Ole Miss in ball games.
That's right.
Like, period. I expect this offense to be even better in year 2. Like, I think you got that much returning production. They're more comfortable with the scheme. They know what they're doing. You move from, they were already kind of spread offense, but it was much more pro style. This is more like let her rip tater chips.
I was just about to say, this is no more. This does not look pro style outside of the fact that the pros are kind of going to this now.
Yeah,
but that's the only reason you would quantify it as pro style today.
Oh, 100%. Defense was okay, but not great by any stretch of the imagination. Year 2 under Jay Bateman, you expect to see some improvement even with losing all 3 of their starting defensive linemen, but the entire back 7 are returning.
Yeah.
You got linebacker Chaz Surratt, who was the former quarterback that switched to linebacker, which I'm surprised that more quarterbacks that don't pan out don't do that.
Oh, I think the athletic ability to play linebacker is just different.
Yeah. Well, he led.
The only guys that are able to do that had to be dual threat running quarterbacks.
Yeah, and that's what Surratt
any
was.
other quarterback don't have the athletic ability to just go.
That's true.
Go play linebacker.
That's true. He led the team with 115 tackles and 15 tackles for loss last year.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah,
he's what you want.
Oh,
leading your defense.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this team is the hype train if there's ever been one. They were already projected by some to win 9 or 10 games before all the schedule changes and whatnot.
I'm going to try to not lose my mind.
Same here. I thought this seems like it might be a year early. Like it's a little early, but the schedule shift helped.
The problem
nobody
with the year
more than
early.
them.
The problem with the year early is this coaching staff still together
in the next year?
The year that it could be really good.
I mean, we'll see.
The one thing they're going to have going for them is I bet a lot of coaches don't get fired because they get to use the pandemic in the offseason. You've got conferences that aren't even playing that coaches would normally lose their job. And then everybody's going to kind of get a pass. That might be the reason you get to keep Longo another year. But
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. They dodge Clemson and they dodge Louisville. They get Notre Dame at home. Their non-conference slate is a home game against rebuilding Charlotte, which before that it was at UCF, a neutral site game against Auburn, and James Madison at home, who is an FCS team that routinely beats FBS teams. So you replace all of those three with Charlotte. Like, I'll take that. The right quarterback obviously can work wonders, and Howell is 100% that. He's unquestionably the second best in the conference behind Trevor Lawrence, and in some cases may have outplayed him last year. I mean, they've got a talent advantage in 8 games.
It would be interesting to see what would happen if those two guys switch teams.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence is elite, but how much of it is playing with elite players in elite systems?
Oh, I mean, you got a valid point there. But Sam Howell has made the players around him elite as well.
Nobody thought these guys were that good.
Oh, 100%. I expect more winning than last season, even if the
numbers are going to go down because they don't get 3 Ws.
Look, they went 3-6 in one possession games last year. I expect that to flip a little bit. Where they went 7-6 last year, I've got North Carolina I've got them at 9-2. I might.
Okay,
that might be a little much.
So I said I'm going to try to not lose my mind on this team. I'm tampering expectations. I think they're 6-4, but that's still
really good.
That's still really good because that's kind of where they were last year.
Yeah.
Because all their games now are conference games. These are all conference wins. So if you give them the non-con win, which they'll beat Charlotte, they'll be 7-4, and that.
I mean, they open with a home game against Syracuse.
7-4 is a really good
Charlotte.
record considering the fact that they're losing 2 pay-for wins that they would normally have, or last year they had.
Yeah, they don't travel to Virginia Tech. They've got a road game against Florida State that have got them losing, and they've got a home game against Notre Dame that have got them losing. But I mean, I've got them beating Miami. Virginia, I don't think is going to be really good. We'll get to them, obviously. Boston College, Virginia Tech, et cetera. So, they could lose to Virginia Tech easily. They did last year, but either way. All right, so let's dive into the next, which I'm having to flip back and forth here for these. The North Carolina State Wolfpack, and that would be Dave Doran's bunch. I don't know what to say about them because they were 4-8 last year. They went 9-4 the year before that. They bring in Tim Beck, offensive coordinator from Texas, who was let go by Tom Herman. This is Tony Gibson's second year as defensive coordinator. Returning production, 74%, number 5 in the ACC. It's at number 23 nationally, 81% comeback on offense. Defense was number 9, 67% coming back on defense. I'm not going to go through the key players because, if you're a national fan, I understand if you're an NC State fan, you understand who they are. But either way, look, Tim Beck takes over an offense that could not find stability at quarterback after Ryan Finley was there forever.
So therein lies the problem of Dorian's team is a lot like teams used to be built a long time ago unless you're a powerhouse program. Every 3 to 4 years, we're going to be good. We're going to compete for something legitimate.
Yeah.
But it's because the whole team is nothing but juniors and seniors by then. We are experienced. They've all been in the system. There's cohesiveness. And all those guys, a lot of them, went to the NFL. They were NFL ready 2 years ago. That means last year's team, super green, very inexperienced, and sloppy.
Oh, yeah.
Not great talent, all that stuff. This year, they're going to be better. I think they're only going to go up because I do believe in 2 years, once a lot of these guys become seniors and get older and he continues to recruit the way he does, the way he builds teams, it's every 3 to 4 years they're competing.
Yeah.
They're not a blue blood. They're not up. But the fact that every 4 years they can be in the conversation of somebody you better be afraid of, that's it. We're not at that year now.
No, I don't think so. I will say this. Add to it, there are very few playmakers in skill positions this year. Last year was a disaster. Number 75 in success rate, number 107 yards per play, number 110 in points per drive inside the 40. Expect them to lean on running back Bam Knight early. He was the bright spot for them last year. Defensive line, we'll move over to that side of the ball. That's been Doran's calling card for years.
Yep.
And last year it was the strength of the defense, but it wasn't much of a strength. They're used to NFL guys at those positions.
But that's because they've had NFL guys. They lost, like, their whole defensive line the prior year all got drafted.
Right, but it used to be.
NC State's not LSU. They're not Georgia. They don't just get to roll new D linemen in that are going to be top 10 guys in the league.
Right, but early on, for several years there, it was year after year after year.
I think he had like 2 or 3 years maybe out of the time he's been there.
And it was just guy after guy after guy after guy, and it just kept going. The defense gave up 30.1 points per game last year.
Oh, I knew they were going to be trash last year.
Over 400 total yards per game. And the secondary dealt with a ton of injuries throughout the season, which turned it was the lowest interception rate in the country. Only 4 interceptions out of 447 passing situations. I would expect better things this year. I don't know how much of an improvement it will be, but I just think Dave Doran's a better coach.
I do too.
Than they were last year. They dodged Notre Dame and Clemson.
Yep.
They still have Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Miami, and Florida State. They close with Liberty, Syracuse, and Georgia Tech. Now, that is the best closing slate out of anybody.
You can get healthy at the end of the year and make the schedule look not so bad.
Expect a change in turnover luck, as adjusted turnover margin was number 126 in the country last year. That means only 4 teams were worse than them. And they absolutely should improve on their 1-7 record from last year. Look, they're projected favorites in 4 games, talent advantage in 6 games, so their projected wins 5.15. I don't quite have them that, and I don't trust them this year right now.
Okay.
I've got them at 3-8.
Okay, I've got them at 5-5.
5-5.
I like Doran. I think this is a coach, and I think the way he builds teams is they kind of work their way to a pinnacle. And I know that if you're NC State, you want that pinnacle to be competing for an ACC championship.
Yeah,
it's just tough to do.
It absolutely
You're in a world where
is.
Clemson is just really hard to beat. But can they get to the point where every 3 to 4 years they're competing with Vatech and, hopefully Florida State doesn't turn into the monster that you've got some teams that you can beat. They've got to get to the point where they beat all the teams they're supposed to beat.
Yeah, you're right about that. Let's go ahead and remind everybody, go over to sbrpicks.com/CFB. You can get more content from us and the crew at sportsbookreview.com. That would help us out a lot. Share the show out. Click the like button for us, of course, all those wonderful things. Make sure you are subscribed to the show. Let's go ahead and dive into the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And, them moving into a conference is super weird. It's just strange. But I'm a fan of it.
Nothing's normal for me this year.
That's true.
So it all seems fine. It all seems like it's supposed to be that way. And I really like this team. I like this team a lot.
Brian Kelly moving into his 11th year at the helm. Tommy Rees is the new offensive coordinator, taking over for Chip Long. Defensive coordinator Clark Lee moves into his 3rd season. And they have been phenomenal on defense under Clark Lee. I honestly thought that it was the guy before him whose name escapes me. He's at Texas A&M right now.
Yeah, I was about to say
Mike something or other. Either way,
we should know.
2019 record, they went 11-2. 2018, they went 12-1. They made the playoffs 2 years ago. They were right in the thick of all of it last year. Look, projected favorites in 9 games, talent advantage in 8 games. Projected wins is 8.17, and that is without a. Let me double check. Yeah, they don't have a non-conference game scheduled right now because they had Western Michigan, and obviously Western Michigan is in the MAC. No more non-conference game right now. So we'll see what they end up scheduling. But linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, good gracious, he's going to be the NFL draft pick out of this.
That dude's every year they're putting an offensive or defensive, sometimes both, lineman into the league as like a top 10 pick.
And
those guys are turning into be really good NFL players too.
Yeah. Their linebackers, their D-line, and their O-line are always like elite. Defensive end, Dalen Hayes is another one. Left tackle, Liam Eichenberg. Now, I didn't even put as a key player Ian Book, but he's 100% like important. But I know you're all in on Ian Book. I know that. Let's dive into this. After 3 years of Chip Long as OC, the offense started with Tommy Rees at offensive coordinator in the bowl game. They put up 33 points and 455 yards on the Iowa State defense that gave up only 25 points per game and 369 yards per game. So that was good.
That was good.
That was obviously good.
What you're looking for.
The offense should remain close to the same. They were number 29 in yards per play, number 43 in total offense, and number 13 in points per trip inside the 40. You get Ian Book back, that's going to help. Having a defense that got them the 17th best starting field position in the country also helps. You can look for new playmakers this year because they're all different, right? It's just going to be different guys. But they've got a veteran quarterback and a veteran offensive line. That's always the right thing, right?
Yeah.
So, defense, fantastic every year on Clark Lee. This is his third season running the show. Number 27 in success rate, number 8 in yards per play, number 29 in points per trip inside the 40. They also forced 2.15 turnovers per game. That was second in the country. 51% production returns on that side of the ball. But the quarterback of the defense, Owusu Koromoa, who I think I said it right that time.
Good job.
He is back. So the weird thing here, though, is what are they going to be like in a conference-only schedule? Right?
That doesn't concern me at all because the schedule, I pulled up last year's schedule just so I knew what I was talking about. They play a tough schedule year in, year out. They have one of the hardest schedules outside of SEC football teams. They play the hardest schedule in the league every year in all of college football. They travel all over the place. They're not going to have to do that now. They're only going to play half their games on the road. And they play top-tier opponents, okay? They're not going up against a Michigan or a Georgia or who else they have? Stanford on the schedule. USC. Those guys aren't on the schedule this year, okay? They get Clemson. Clemson's the only team that's close to any of those other teams. Well, Clemson's not really close to them. They're a lot better than them. Outside of that, nobody else they play is going to be close to as good as those teams were.
So Notre Dame has a talent advantage in 8 games. But the two that they don't are Florida State and Clemson.
Yeah. And I think they're just substantially better than Florida State.
Yeah.
And I think Clemson is a lot better than everybody. So
there you go.
That's the difference.
So we're not going to see USC. We're not going to see Stanford. We're not going to see Navy, et cetera. But, it'll be interesting to see.
Them not playing Navy stinks because that's something that I've just
it's been 100 plus
to.
years.
Even though they kind of always beat up on Navy, and every year people think, oh, maybe this is the year Navy catches it.
And they did for a little while.
Well, they did at one point in time. Notre Dame was pretty bad, struggling, going through some lows.
Yeah.
I haven't done a 180 on a coach like I have on Brian Kelly ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
No, you used to really not like him.
When he first got there.
And now you love him.
This guy was a great – but here's the thing. He was always a great coach.
Yeah.
And I never criticized him for the coaching. He was a grade A asshole. Okay?
Yeah,
he treated his players like crap. He treated his coaches like crap. He treated his staff like crap, and nobody wanted to be around that guy. And he won, and so he got a pass. And he has learned, it seems, over time to have softened a lot, to be a lot more reasonable. Or he's the same way, and he's done a great job of hiding it.
Yeah, I think he's mellowed.
Well, he has to, because we live in a world where you don't get to hide anything anymore.
Yeah.
No, all of your flaws are out in the world.
That is true.
I think this guy is an elite level coach.
I
think I would never want to leave Notre Dame if I had the Notre Dame job, but I would need my administration and my fan base to understand, because of our academics, we're never going to be Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Ohio State. We're just not.
We will have years where we can compete with them.
Compete is a relative term. Okay. We can keep it within 2 scores most of the game.
Yeah.
They have to make catastrophic mistakes, and we have to play a perfect football game to beat them.
Yeah.
The talent separation is massive, and it's about as wide of a gap as the ACT scores. And that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely does. No, Notre Dame fans do not want to hear that. But
I know they don't want to hear it, but it's just the game is so different today.
Oh, it 100% is.
Talent is just too hard to get.
Yeah, you've got 5 or 6 teams that have the amount of talent necessary. And it's not just the starting 22.
The schools I didn't name are USC. Like, you could absolutely hang with USC. I know you're not playing Michigan anymore, but Michigan is the perfect comp for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Both extremely high academics, but extremely high football aptitude and history.
Yes. No, you're right. You're right. So with that said, the schedule appears to have gotten easier.
Yeah, I think the schedule's a lot easier.
If they're not playing for an ACC championship this year, it will only be because either North Carolina or Florida State or somebody has had like a miraculous season.
I think they lose to Clemson twice. I've said that.
I've got them at, let's see, I've got them at 8-2.
That's crazy.
But the only problem the only reason I've got that is because I've got them losing to North Carolina.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but
I got them 9-1. I wanted to go 10-0. I just don't have the balls. Here's the problem. I don't want them to beat Clemson the first time. If you're going to get them the second time.
There you go.
Win the ACC title, please. Oh, for the love of everything I love. It's good. Please. Join a conference for one day. And I'm not even a Notre Dame homer. I'm not a Notre Dame fan or guy. I didn't grow up loving this stuff.
But
everybody beats the drum. They should join a conference. They should join a conference. How hilarious would it be if they joined a conference, won the conference, said, shut up.
Like, we're out.
Say something.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Pitt Panthers here. Pat Narduzzi. The guy is unbelievable. He's about as consistent as you can possibly be. I mean, they reek of 7 wins every year. It's just unbelievable.
He's just so weird.
8-5 last year, 7-7, and a conference title appearance 2 years ago. You know, I'll give him this credit. You know what? I'm going to give him that credit here in a minute. First off, key players: safety Paris Ford, quarterback Kenny Pickett, defensive end Rashad Weaver. They're projected favorites in 5 games. They have a talent advantage in 5 games, and their projected wins are 4.57. So tons of toss-ups there, just like you would expect from a coastal team. 69% returning production. It's number 7 in the ACC. It's number 48 in the country. That was before a bunch of them decided to stop playing football. Year 2 on the offense under former UMass head coach, offensive coordinator Mark Whipple. You should see some more improvement from quarterback Kenny Pickett. He threw for over 3,000 yards last year, but only threw 13 touchdowns. It seems off a little bit. But number 106 in yards per play, number 96 in success rate, number 124 in points per trip inside the 40. They should all improve this year as they continue to move along in Whipple's offense. They returned 77% production from a year ago on offense. And last year they went to 54% passing the ball after only throwing the ball 36% of the time the season before that. Like, this is as big of a cultural shift on offense as you could possibly get. They ran the ball down everybody's throat for years. That was the Narduzzi way. He learned it from D'Antonio. Like, that's, you know, it was the Bear Bryant thing you and I always talk about. Like, only 3 things can happen when you throw the football, and 2 of them are bad. That's not the way that football is played anymore. You're going to have to be able to score. You're going to have to throw the football. You got to make explosive plays and whatnot. Now, they threw the ball a lot last year. They just didn't have explosive plays. I think they're going to have more playmakers this year, et cetera. The defense, that's never a problem. Defense is never going to change.
So the last 2 years run together for me. Last year's the year they beat UCF, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So
that's when the creative play calling and whatnot came in.
No, hang on. That's the first time they've ever ran a creative play in the history of Pat Narduzzi being alive, ever. And then after that, the rest of the weeks behind that, the 3 weeks after that, I kept believing in this offense, and they went back to same old, boring, terrible offense Pitt, and it just infuriated me. And after that, Pat Narduzzi just dead to me.
Well, he opened up the offense as the season went on. I mean, they were scoring 40 points a game and whatever in a couple of different slots. But the defense, obviously not going to change much. We'll move into that side of the ball. Returned 7 starters, nearly 60% of their production. It does not help to have defensive tackle Jalen Twyman opt out for the season, but defensive ends Rashad Weaver and Patrick Jones are going to head up a nasty defensive line that's going to make a ton of plays. Under Narduzzi, you were never going to have to worry about the defense, I don't believe. Consistency, that's the name of the game. Narduzzi has been that over the years. You can credit him for understanding the game of football and, that it has changed. He hired Whipple a year ago to revamp the offense to find new ways to score because you got to be able to keep up sometimes. It did not help much last year as they finished number 114 in points per game, but so long as he's running his defense, they're going to be in most games. A 4-4 conference record last year, 5-3 record in one-possession games overall. His team knows how to win, but the one-bounce wins can easily go the other way this year. I expect the defense to rule the season, but, look for a better overall team even if the record doesn't show it. I have got Pitt at 5-5 this year, which I think is just about dead. It's like the Jeff Fisher thing, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much the offense changes. Every year it's going to be one-possession games, and sometimes they'll bunch away and sometimes they won't.
I got them 3 wins.
You got 3 wins?
3 wins. I told you. Or he's just dead to me. I'm done with this guy. Done with this guy and his lack of consistency and offense. Listen, I don't see a single game where they score 40 points the whole game.
Where? From last year?
From last year, they didn't score 40 a whole game. They beat Duke 33-30. That's the most they scored outside of UCF, which is 35.
Oh, look, keep scrolling. Let's scroll down. 33.
17. That's the Duke game.
27.
27.
Let's see, 12 against Miami. That's expected. 34 against North Carolina in overtime.
That's OT too.
Hey, you know what? I was dead
No,
wrong.
I'm telling you,
Score for
that UCF game, they scored 35, and then after that, 17. Then the 33 against Duke, which didn't cover still. And then 27 against Syracuse, which didn't cover still. And then 16 against Miami. Or 12 against Miami. Didn't cover.
Dead to you. Dead to you.
Out. That dude cost me too much dough. Which that's par for the course, though, right? Like, that's going to happen, and then this year they're going to have a bounce-back year. They're actually going to open it up.
I think a second year under that kind of offense, I mean, because remember, you were going – it's not that they were triple option, but when you run the ball like 64% of the time, I mean,
I
that's
loved
a
that
lot.
Central Florida team last year.
Yeah, no, Central. I think
it didn't
Central
work
Florida
out the
could
way I
be
wanted. Well, it worked out exactly the way I thought it would, because I thought Cincinnati and Memphis would be better than them, but which they were.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Even still. All right, let's move on. Another guy that we like to talk about.
this is a disappointing guy. I lost a lot of dough on this guy last
Oh,
year.
100%.
But
Dino
I do
Babers.
love him, though. He's not dead to me.
Dino Babers enters his 5th season with the Syracuse Orange. Offensive coordinator Sterling Gilbert, this is his first season there. Defensive coordinator Tony White, this is his first season there.
Whole new staff, baby.
Whole new staff. They went 10-3 in 2018, and that dropped down to 5-7. That is not what you like to see. Projected favorites in 3 games. They got a talent advantage in 0, but they got projected wins in 4.13 games this year. Yep. So, 52% returning production, which is a good thing. 61% of it is on offense. That means that the defense, which was pretty bad last year, might get even worse. But again, maybe it's going to be better to have new blood in there.
New dudes, yeah.
Only 42% on defense coming back. Safety Andrew Sisko is going to be their best prospect, along with defensive end Josh Black. And then quarterback Tommy DeVito is not bad.
Nope.
Like, he didn't pick up the offense as quickly as anybody wanted.
And we're changing the offense again, though. That's the problem.
Well, agree, but it's not going to change the offense again, because this is Dino Babers' offense. Let's not get this twisted.
All right, yeah, you're right.
But he just never had a chance last year behind an offensive line that lost 2 guys pretty early and was just constantly rotating in and out. They never really gelled at all last year. The offense finished number 117 in success rate, and it points right at an offensive line that can't get their stuff together.
100%.
They were number 102 in explosiveness, number 89 in points per trip inside the 40. That's a recipe for disaster when your team is built on high-tempo offense. This year they returned 3 offensive linemen, so that's good. They still got weapons at the skill position, so if the offensive line gels effectively, it should look a lot better in DeVito's second year as a starter. However, if the high-tempo offense cannot get it going, that leaves the defense on an island, which is what they did last year, and the defense is under-talented anyway. It leads to giving up 30-plus points per game like they did last year, and 464 yards per game.
It's not what you want.
No, the defense was on the field for over 30 minutes in every single game. I would expect that to change a little bit this year as the offense becomes a little more efficient. But, look, after a 10-win year, dropping back down to 5 wins, not what anybody wants to see. If the offense can get it going again, they can get back to a bowl game. But this team is going to be less talented than almost every other ACC team. Coaching and fundamentals have got to be on point, and last year they just weren't.
Yep.
They just weren't.
I think this team's going to struggle. I like Dino Babers a lot. Guys I like a lot, I give a little bit of a bump to, but I'm honest about it. Telling you, this is a me bump. I think this team's ceiling is 4 wins.
I've got them 3-8.
Okay,
So,
all right.
yeah.
I'm not like so far. I'm 1 game difference.
I will go
get
ahead
to
and
4.
tell everybody, if this is your first time watching us, I love to be optimistic for just about everybody. It's like, okay, well, if they gel, if they do this, then they can be good, because it's not out of the realm of possibilities. We see this stuff happen all the time, but it's not likely.
It's not likely. I like Dino a lot. I think he's a really good coach at a school that
they got really lucky the year that they won 10 games.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the ACC was completely down. Now
they got Clemson.
Yes.
They got the juggernaut.
Did they even get them that year? I don't think they got them that year that they won 10 games. I mean,
they got them the year before. That's right. They lost to them that year. They got them the year before.
Right. So
that is right.
But everybody else was down, and that's the thing.
But here's the thing, though, man.
Everybody,
is this conference
still down
now?
Well, but now you've got Notre Dame, for this season.
That's it.
But you've also got North Carolina that's a lot better.
Yes.
You've also got, is NC State going to be any better? We'll see.
But all of these teams are in that weird limbo. North Carolina,
they get Georgia Tech
right now, are bumped, and Notre Dame is elite. Clemson is super elite.
I think Louisville's better.
Well, I do too. But that's why I have Louisville with 6 wins, and if they got to 7, it wouldn't shock me. This is conference wins.
Yeah.
There's a big gap between 4 and 6.
Yes. No, 100%. 100% there.
I just think there's going to be a lot of chaos in this conference because I don't think anybody outside of the top boys are great.
Oh, no, you're dead on with that. I think
Syracuse beat, I don't even know.
Chaos is the right word here. I've got Syracuse beating Georgia Tech, Liberty, and NC State. But they could beat Wake Forest. They could beat Boston College. They could beat.
Are they still playing Louisiana as their non-con?
No, Syracuse was Liberty.
Oh, Syracuse was Liberty?
Yeah, they were playing Liberty.
They were not Liberty when I looked at the schedule.
I just looked at it this morning.
Okay, well, I did this. I did my schedule 2 weeks ago before everything blew up.
So
that's why I took all the non-cons off because I didn't know.
Yeah, well,
is
because
that real
they're changing.
Or not anymore.
They're changing all the time. It is what it is. Let's go ahead and move into the next game. We've only got 3 left here.
I think this is going to be the guy that I'm the most wrong on, but I'm optimistic about.
Bronco Mendenhall moves into his 5th season. He came over from BYU. 9-5 last year. We all kind of expected that if they were going to get over the hump, if they were going to get to the ACC championship game, last year would be the year, and they did it. They got there. Now they got stomped by Clemson, but Clemson was stomping everybody last year.
I'd say we expect that.
It doesn't change anything. They went 8-5 in 2018. Average numbers everywhere. SP Plus, they were number 44. On offense, they were number 48. And then on defense, they were number 52.
Yeah.
Returning production, they get 66% of their guys back. However, only 51% of them are on offense. Defense, however, 81% return. They're projected favorites in 7 games. They have a talent advantage in only 2 games. So that should tell you everything you need to know about how much everybody respects Bronco Mendenhall. Let's go ahead and talk about the key players here. Linebacker Zane Zandier, linebacker Charles Snowden, and then wide receiver Terrell Jana. The biggest deal on offense here is whether or not Bronco is going to give the keys of his offense to quarterback Keaton Thompson, who's a transfer dual threat from Mississippi State.
Yep.
If he lets Brennan Armstrong, the guy that's been in the program for a year, like this is his sophomore season, I think Thompson is significantly more talented and has more playmaking abilities. But it depends on what kind of offense he wants to run. Like Bryce Perkins that was his show for the last however many years, and he was the runner and the passer, and he did everything. That's why you only see 51% of their offense returning is because he's gone.
Yep.
Like Thompson has the ability to be that kind of a guy.
I agree.
I don't believe that Armstrong does.
But I think
we'll see.
I think this is what Bronco wants.
Yeah.
I think that's why he goes out and recruits a grad transfer. You're not leaving Mississippi State and going to Virginia just because
to sit on the bench.
Yeah. No, you were called and you were pursued and you were wanted.
Yes. So Perkins was the unquestioned leader of the team. It did not equate to anything super impressive other than wins, right? They were 47th in success rate, 78th in yards per play. Rushing game was number 117 in the country with only 121 rushing yards per game. You can expect a shift in style this season. It's going to be helped by returning all 5 of their offensive linemen. But yeah, let's talk about this defense, which was average at best. Now, they do return a lot of it this year, which is good. They were fierce at getting after the quarterback. They recorded a sack on 10.11% of all passing opportunities. That's number 10 in FBS.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's really good.
Outside of that, they gave up 27.1 points per game, which is number 62 in the country, and 372 yards per game. That's number 48. Without Perkins on offense, the team is going to lean heavily on this defense, which has helped because, like I said, 81% of the production on that side of the ball is coming back. I mean, that is just astronomical numbers. It tells everything you need to know about what people think of you and the culture that you've built. If you've only got a talent advantage in 2 games and you're projected to win 7. Like, that's crazy. His teams are ferocious. They are fundamentally sound. And
I think of Tim Duncan when I think of Bronco Mendenhall football.
yeah,
The big fundamental. They don't beat themselves.
Oh, yeah.
They grind you to pieces slowly and methodically, and when you make a mistake, they capitalize.
Yeah.
They don't do anything. Their big plays are non-existent.
I mean, they're going to be a tough out for everybody.
Yes.
Sans Clemson.
Yeah,
right?
They're going to play everyone close. They're going to keep you in one-score games constantly, and when you make a mistake, they are going to capitalize, and that's how they beat you. They don't kill anybody, and they lull you into this kind of boring, lethargic way of playing football. Nothing's fast-paced. When we're looking at everybody else going fast-paced, nothing is like super spread, super creative. It's very monotonous and whatever, and it's get into the red zone, kick field goals. Field goals are your friend.
Yeah.
Don't make mistakes on defense. Don't give up the big plays because we don't make the big plays. When they turn the ball over,
make sure and capitalize on it.
We capitalize. I think this team that's hard to – I think it's really hard to go on a big losing streak when you play like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think they have crossed the hurdle of being capable of beating most of the teams in this conference because they're so disciplined in how they play football. And I think chaos is going to be their friend as opposed to everybody else. They've got consistency. They've got, even if they put a different guy at quarterback, the only way I think Thompson loses that job is if he turns the football over. If he creates chaos for them. No. That's not what we do here.
You might be right.
I like Bronco Mendenhall. I don't know if any of that sounded like I'm a fan of theirs because it's
we
not
enjoy
what
fundamentals.
football has been. But it's really hard to beat a guy that just doesn't make a mistake.
Yes, 100%.
You got better athletes than me all day long. But if I don't make a mistake and your athletes, get a little squirrely, it's tough to beat them.
Yeah, who's?
I mean, not
for
the Clemsons, obviously.
No, of course not. But yeah. I've got them at 5-6 this year. That could easily be 7-4. I mean, it could easily be that.
I've got them 6-4 in conference. That would be 7-4 non-con.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I've got 5-6. That would be 4-6 in conference. But would it surprise me to see him go 6-4 in conference? Like, not in the slightest. I love this team. I like what he does. I'll roll with it. Let's go ahead and move on. Another guy that we like a lot. That would be Justin Fuente and the Virginia Tech Hokies. 5th year at the helm there. Brad Cornelson, his 5th year as offensive coordinator, and then defensive coordinator. This will shock people that haven't been paying attention, but that would be Justin Hamilton in his first year. Bud Foster retired last year after decades and decades and decades in Blacksburg. 8-5 last year was the record. Went 6-7 the year before that, and people were a little squirrely about things early last season, But this year, 82% returning production. That's number 2 in the ACC, number 6 in the country. 74% of that is on offense, 81% is on defense. Projected favorites in 9 games, talent advantage in 9 games, projected wins in 6.5 games. And the reason for that is because there's just a ton of toss-up games here. There's just games that could go either way. Linebacker Rayshard Ashby is their number 1 key player. Number 2 is quarterback Hendon Hooker. And then number 3, wide receiver Trey Turner. Offense found a spark when they went to Hooker last year in week 5. They went 6-2 down the stretch after that, including a close loss at Virginia to end the season, which was the first time in 15 years? I mean, it was forever. And they had a 21-20 loss at Notre Dame, which we both think they probably should have won that game. Yep. Like they were absolutely there, and they just kind of gave it away. Hooker is not a big-time passing threat. He can make enough plays through the air to be to keep a defense on their heels. He opens up a ton of dual threat options. The offense wasn't anything necessarily to write home about. I would say that they were good enough. I expect improvement this year with 9 starters back and Hooker to have, an offseason where he knows he's the guy. So that definitely helps things. Defense, 9 starters return. Cornerback, Caleb Farley, of course, opting out. We'll see what that means for that secondary. They're still insanely experienced in the secondary. So, we'll see. It should spell good things. The defense was number 12 in the country in success rate last year. They took bend but don't break seriously because they gave up only 23 touchdowns and 42 red zone opportunities last year. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Definitely good stuff to work with after Bud Foster retired. And, Justin Hamilton, makes sense that your strength here is going to be your secondary because he worked with the safeties. I mean, he was a DB guy. Fuente had a rough opening the last season. It led a lot of people to question whether or not he was the right fit for this job.
That's right.
And he turned it around in the season. He led them to another bowl game. Didn't win the bowl game. They lost to Virginia for the first time in forever. However, they're on the right they're on the right path. I feel like I'm stepping over my words here, but I think that the way that last year ended kind of put them in the right position to have a really big year this year. And I don't think by really big year, I mean more improvement. I think they're going to be better. I think you're going to have even more returning next year. And I mean, they are set up, I think, for a while. I think Fuente has entrenched himself there. I've got him at 7-4, but I mean, I could see it being 9-2. I could see it being 5-6.
So I've got them 8-2 in conference.
Okay.
I mean, I think this team's going to be really good.
I've got losses to Pitt, North Carolina, Louisville, and Clemson, and that's it.
So I think they're a really good football team. I think Justin Fuente has not hit his stride yet.
Yeah.
I've seen what that guy was able to do at Memphis with far less talent than what he has here.
I agree.
I just have. At some point in time, this talent's got to figure out that system because that system didn't just all of a sudden stop being good.
No. You're 100%
and the
right.
vaulted defenses of the ACC hadn't just caught up to him and shut it down.
No.
They beat themselves
100%.
in a lot of these games.
100%.
And I think they can put it all together, and I think they're going to be a tough out for everybody not named Clemson.
You might be right. We will move on into the last one. Of course, remember, make sure that you like the video and that you are subscribed. Go over to sbrpicks.com/CFB, or you can click the link in the description. We'll tell you that again at the end of the video. But we're going to move into the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. And Coach Dave Clawson enters his 7th season there. Same offensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator Lyle Hemphill is in his 2nd season. They went 8-5 last year, and it had all the setup to be absolutely magnificent, but they ran into a ton of injuries. They've got 50% returning production this year, which is not great at all. I mean, it's dead last in the ACC. It's number 111 in the country, and they are just, it is what it is. Projected favorites, they're projected to win one game. One game this year. Talent advantage is 1. They've only got 1 there. And projected win total is 3.23. Now, obviously, we like Clawson. If you've ever seen this before, we love what Wake Forest does and whatnot. Yep. But, I mean, there's just no getting around the fact that they don't have the non-conference games to be able to build on. Key players, defensive end Carlos Basham Jr., you need to be paying attention to him if you're not. I mean, I'm telling you, he's the real deal. Wide receiver Sage Surratt and right guard Terrence Davis, who's a transfer from Maryland. He's going to start immediately. It is never a good thing when you lose Pro Football Focus's number 3 best returning quarterback in the country, Jamie Newman, to a transfer. But it's not like they're starting over at the position. Quarterback Sam Hartman actually won the starting quarterback job over Newman back in 2018. He was 4th in the ACC in total offense as a freshman that year before he broke his leg in the 9th game, which made way for Newman. Combine Hartman with playmaking wide receiver Sage Surratt, and you got a good starting point, even if the Deacs only return 3 starters on offense and only 33% production, which is number 125 in the FBS. Clawson has always been able to make the offense work somehow. On defense, it all starts with defensive end Carlos Basham. He's unbelievable. Deacons are by no means a good defense whatsoever, but he helped them improve their pass rush last year. They created more turnovers. They were number 18 in the country in adjusted turnover margin. On top of that, defense forced a 3-and-out on 37% of opponents' drives, which were ranked 4th in the ACC and number 22 overall. They got 9 starters back this year. I would expect some improvement. Injuries killed them at the end of last year. They started 7-1, but they lost a ton, and they finished the year 1-4. So not a good thing. The schedule, less than friendly. I mean, this is brutal, absolutely brutal. It's going to take Clawson having one of his best coaching jobs to be able to keep them competitive this year. You know, they get Clemson and Notre Dame in 2 of their first 3 games.
It's tough.
It's brutal. It is brutal, but Clawson is a legit coach.
Yep.
So, you know, don't be shocked. I've got them at 3-7. Not shocked if they do something crazy, go 6-4, 7 and whatever. I don't see it right now.
So I got them 4-6.
Yeah.
I got them on, and it's all Clawson.
Oh, 100%.
It's all in. I trust this guy as a leader. I know that there's going to be a complicated offseason. I know that none of this is going to go well for a lot of these teams. And I think this guy is smart enough, experienced enough. He knows his team. He's at a really good school.
Yeah.
And
academically,
and that,
100%.
like he's not dealing with the athletes of most of these guys. These guys got good brains, got good head on their shoulders. And I think he can find ways to beat teams that he probably shouldn't beat. Now,
you're right.
I don't think it's Notre Dame. I don't think it's Clemson. But all these other teams that are
100%
way
beat
better
these other
than
teams.
them,
Yeah.
don't overlook them because you get got.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And if you're dealing with not, trying to implement a new system or trying to do something different, he's not.
No.
And he'll come in and he'll take it from you.
Yeah. No, you're dead on about
it's
that.
it's all a trust in one man.
I'm with you.
Maybe I'm putting too much trust in him, and I do that a lot. I buy into coaches in college football more than I should all the time.
No, you don't, because that's what college football is.
I'm mad.
You buy
At some
into
point
the
in time, I
guys.
feel like the dudes matter.
The dudes matter.
More and more, the dudes matter more.
The dudes matter.
Than they used to.
But the coaches still matter a great deal. A great deal. All right, that is going to wrap up our ACC preview. It was a long one, but it was a fun one. We appreciate all of you for hanging out. If you want to see more sports content, go over to sbrpicks.com/CFB, or you can click the links in the description below. You can stay on top of all the content that SBR provides. I know that you do. I know you want to pay attention to what's going on, and you want more of our beautiful mugs on your screen. So make sure that you are subscribed, that you like, and share out the show. All of those wonderful things. You would help us out immensely. We would appreciate that. sbrpicks.com/CFB for sportsbookreview.com. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
We will see you guys next time.